Thank you so much. I think on that note, thinking about all the stakeholders who need to be involved, what skill sets you need to bring, our next panel is focusing on something that we've seen since the very beginning of our own investments in this space, which is the need for talent, data and AI talent at every level, a wide variety of backgrounds in this space. So I'm excited to welcome some of our grantees and academic partners for a conversation about the talent pipeline of the future.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be back again to the summit. My name is David Uminsky. I'm the Executive Director of the Data Science Institute. I have one of the easier jobs on the day. I get to moderate these amazing faculty to my left. We talk a lot, and we use a lot of language. It started very early today around supply side versus demand side on workforce, research, and education. One version of what you're looking at today, though, is the supply side of the workforce, education and training. And I'm going to lead off by just asking each of our panelists to introduce themselves, talk about their roles, and in particular, what they're doing at their institutions and efforts around training the next generation of talented impact data and AI. So why don't you lead us off, Doctor?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Carolina Rossini. I'm not a doctor. I am one of, they keep calling me a unicorn at UMass because I have almost 30 years of market experience, 4 master degrees, 2 undergrads, well, one is JD, but I don't have a PhD. So I have to hold my ground, and I'm in the room with lots of PhDs, but I think they brought me to UMass exactly because of the reality I bring. I was 10 years in the private sector, almost 20 years in the nonprofit sector, academia for part of that. And I was working with a lot of human rights advocates on the front lines, right? I have friends in jail across the world, right? So I just want to bring the reality here that a lot of the things we are discussing nowadays have very strong real world impact. And the idea for UMass to bring me on board during this past summer is actually to think of a lot of programs on public interest technology. So UMass at Amherst is one of the founding members with New America Foundation and lots of organizations of the Public Interest Technology University Network across the US. We are also the co-founders of the Northeastern Region chapter. And the idea is really to develop cross colleges, new graduate and undergraduate courses that forms the next generation of engineers, data scientists, nurses, doctors, lawyers, with this mindset of public interest technology. When we think about public interest technology, it's just a new name for lots of things that people here have been working forever, right? Many of you have been working on access to knowledge, human rights, inclusivity, social justice, transparency, accountability. So how can we embed these values in the training of these teams, but also, sorry about the joke, but we say, how can we give a bullshit barometer for the folks from the humanities when somebody tells me AI can solve all the problems in the world, right? So it's very interesting. We think if you know the analogy of the cathedral and the bazaar, a lot of things nowadays have done in a bazaar fashion. We want to do in a cathedral fashion. How can you bring STEAM from one side? How can you bring humanities one side? Create a safe space in the middle, put those folks to work together and to talk, right? And then really create this next generation. And one of the things that for me is very important, I worked for Telefónica for many years. I'm from Brazil originally, in Brazil, in Spain, and then Facebook. Sorry about that, guys. And I was brought in as a policy person, legal person, to do product assessment. And the product managers, sorry, I'm touchy, right? I'm Brazilian, and we love to touch and give hugs. Whoever needs a hug today, you can come and hug me. I'm a hugger. So they would call us and say, hey, tomorrow we are launching this product in Colombia. Or next week, we are then expanding to Africa. And I said, oh my gosh. No, it's elections. Black, this country not launch. So you have to fix something later. So we need to have those folks think about these things when they start thinking about the product, when they design. Of course, they don't need to be experts. They don't need to become lawyers, but they need to understand, when do I bring the lawyer? When do I need to bring the compliance? When I need, and And we also need to train those people to not say no to everything, right? Products and engineers don't bring policy and legal because they think we're going to say no to everything. And I say, no, no, no. We are creative lawyers. We can say yes or yes, but, right? So that's the fun to be at UMass. It's an honor to join such a big, prestigious university in the US, and I really hope we can contribute in that regard. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Washington.
Yeah, so it's great to be here. My name is Dr. Talitha Washington, and I am the director of the Atlanta University Center Data Science Initiative. And I'm also the director and lead principal investigator of the National Science Foundation, National Data Science Alliance. So essentially, I run two, we'll say, major nationally facing centers that work to democratize data science and artificial intelligence through historically Black colleges and universities. So we set up ecosystems where faculty can come and work with us, and we help kind of, we'll say, coach and support the development of new curriculum, support the development of new research, and also position them to do research with students. Today, actually, this afternoon, we'll be hosting, it's virtual, a student data science symposium where we're going to have 25 different students from across the nation's historically Black colleges and universities give 5-minute lightning talks on their work, anywhere from football analytics to reducing waste using data to all these other key insights in between. And it's a great way to have students share their work, engage in it, and also for us to celebrate it as well. We've helped launch new curriculum from majors to minors. We're also supporting the development of graduate programs in data science and AI. At HBCUs, we've already launched, we'll say, helped to launch, what's 7 plus 4, 11? 11 minor. I'm a mathematician. I'm not good with numbers, right? Yeah, what are you going to do? So 11 new minors and 4 new majors at HBCUs at this interface. So we're really excited about this work at a national scale. We are also right now hosting a data challenge where we're going to bring together HBCU students, faculty, along with industry mentors to look at, impact data science. How can you use data science to make an impact in communities? What sort of solutions can these teams bring to address and we'll say increase the Mastercard's inclusive growth score? And so that's what our data challenge is centered around, to number one, say, students, we need for you to give us solutions, and to also empower and equip them to develop those solutions. So we're really excited about having that challenge over our fall semester and all the new innovations that all of these programs and activities that we run on a national scale will bring.
Thank you. And Dr. Quarkume?
Thank you. Dr. Amibar Quarkume is a professor of Africana Studies and Data Science at Howard University. If you're a leader, raise your hand. If you're a leader, raise your hand if you're a leader. I like to stretch, yes. At Howard, we are building leaders in data science. We believe that at Howard, a center of social justice in DC and in the global world, we feel like students should be able to lead in data science with data skills and data capacities. And doing that is difficult. So we try our best to also empower students, because impact takes emotional energy, physical energy, intellectual energy. And from students who generally come from underserved backgrounds, being a leader takes confidence. So our students are not only built with skills, Python, R, SQL, but they also deal with the emotional sense of ethics and moral guidelines, to be able to kind of be in roles that in many cases you'll be pushed up against, right? You have to speak out loud, you have to think differently. And our students in our program are trained in that way. It's an online program. We're 2 years old. We're a baby compared to the other programs here, but we are disruptive babies. And our babies are around the globe, from Ghana to the Caribbean to California to New York. And we're just excited about being a part of this opportunity to make impact, be leaders, and truly make change with data.
Thank you. And what I'd love to have you all unpack is really, this group here is wondering about this talent pipeline, the curriculum that goes into it. I'm going to combine a question now, because we're a little short on time already, is what are the things you need out of partnership to be successful in training this talent workforce, this diverse talent, this ethically minded new AI workforce? What partnerships do you need, and what are the challenges you're facing that give you the most pause while you do this work? And maybe we'll go in reverse order this time.
Let's be transparent. Funding does help. It costs to think differently, right? And being confident, you need space. So funding is one, but also being a partner, knowing that you'll get different outcomes. So how we evaluate change should look different. And many times the ability to work with someone thinking that they want to just meet this goal, we know that we can't do the same thing over and over again, right? So we must be open to saying that, the way you're thinking, I can accept that, because we have to do things differently. So I would say funding and a sense of open-mindedness and thinking about change and making an impact.
Well, this past summer, we hosted a symposium on envisioning AI education across disciplines, because there's the development of AI technology, but then there's also the application of AI technology, and there's also policy, ethical concerns. What's that? How does it impact society? So we hosted 2 symposiums, one in June and one in July, where we had faculty from across the country come to Atlanta to really do a deep dive into what should our students learn, how should they learn it, and then how do we create those environments. And those conversations happen with our industry partners joining with us. A friend of mine at NVIDIA, he calls himself a startup. NVIDIA's a startup or something. I don't know. He's so silly. And I remember at the end of the day, he said, I've never spent this much time talking with educators. And so we pride ourselves on creating those spaces where those from industry can sit down with our educators who are in the trenches and preparing students to move into this AI-driven workforce. We need to understand in the classroom, how do we create an environment where students can learn? What should they learn? How should they learn? And really, I see this as a partnership between the universities, between industries, to create these pipelines and also to tap into talent that may not have been tapped as much before. And as what my fellow panelists esteemedly put it, this does take funding. This does take support to do. There's a lot of work to be done, and there's a lot at stake, not only in the elections, but as we move forward. And so we always look for people to work alongside with us, and also look for others to support our work as we continue engaging with historically Black colleges and universities to create and build robust pathways, not only in the curriculum, but in research experience, in connections, in partnerships.
Very nice. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for that. It's always wonderful to see this incredible effort. Last year, actually, the PTUN convening, I was the host at Boston University. I'm also a professor there in the law school. And it was interesting because it was everything about partnerships, right? And until today, we have a discussion with funders. We have a discussion with business. We have a discussion with government. We have a discussion with nonprofits, right? Because all of those can be very important pathways for our students. UMass specifically has a very strong tradition to work locally in Massachusetts and so forth and so on, with lots of partnerships. We have a partnership with Howard and many other universities. But the interesting thing here is that to build those partnerships, we need to build a common vocabulary. And I'm not sure we are there yet. And when I say common vocabulary, if you see, for example, job postings, right? I started collecting data on job postings across US on AI jobs, new AI positions, right? Nobody say, hey, I need an engineer who has empathy. Nobody say, I need a computer scientist or a data scientist student who has a minimum understanding of inclusion in educational spaces, even if they are hiring for AI project in an education company, right? So I think that we have a very important responsibility of building partnerships, but also creating this common vocabulary that will create the new jobs for our students, right? That will create the pathways for the folks we are forming in all our universities through this social justice and inclusive STEM moving forward. One of the things, if I may add, that really worries me, and I'm sure worries all of you guys, was the 2023 U.S. Supreme Court decision that broke down the idea of inclusive action, right? So nowadays you cannot use race as a data point to select students. That means if you see the acceptance of folks of race or Latino origin, it decreased by 10% in most universities. I have some data here that black students at Amherst College dropped from 11% to 3%. So we need to take into consideration these environmental signals to say, hey, how can we be creative in creating those pathways if we are not bringing diversity into college because there is this Supreme Court decision. Anyway, so I know this brings us to another discussion, but they are all environmental signals for us to take into account.
That's right. Amy, did you want to follow up?
Yeah, I want to add, so for the partnership, I think it also for our students, it becomes important for partners to come in and say, here is an opportunity for you to tell me how you want to solve your problem versus you give me your problem and I'll solve it for you. So I think sometimes we see partnerships where students are somewhat given, but they don't have the space to innovate for themselves and be able to create their own innovations and opportunities.
Well, I mean, I think there's a few partners in the room. I hope you are able to find us afterwards and talk. One of the things I think you're going to hear across all these programs, not saying it as explicitly, is really real-world centered, community-centered, experiential-centered. We do not want students. I mean, I'm at the University of Chicago, so I do need to say that we make sure they prove theorems and write really rigorous code, but they cannot graduate unless they work and solve a real-world problem. This is how we think we get people into the workforce. But I'm going to ask you another challenge. We now, and you will begin having programs really that are scaling up and graduating students out into the workforce. Where do you see the opportunities for partnership around impact data science? We hear a lot about the demand side need. I think about it all the time. What does a public interest career look like? Not a public interest volunteering opportunity look like? And so I'm just wondering what you all are thinking about, what your students are interfacing with. Where are you seeing the opportunities, and where do you think you need help from a place in a group like this around continuing that career opportunity? Yep.
Well, I love that you said there are careers and not volunteering. I love that, because if you guys remember some years ago, and I was at Public Knowledge, which is inside the Belt Public Interest nonprofit in DC. And with Gene Kimmelman, we created a bunch of pipelines with universities bringing folks from data science and computer to work in public policy organizations, and Ford Foundation came in, Mozilla Foundation came in, and then you see the emergence of things like Code for America, Tech Congress, and things like that, right? And this is just a piece. So we need funders, both private and philanthropic funders, really helping us create and sponsor some of those pipelines, especially when we want to place those folks, and they want to be placed in community organizations or nonprofits or academia, or even partner when something is so challenged that a company doesn't want to be the only one taking the risk. Right? So how can we create these less risky environments and funding to pay the students? So they say, okay, I may have a college debt, but I will be working an internship. I will be getting a salary. So working on public interest is not a dream; is an actual real option.
So this past summer, we had a pre-freshman experience program where it was a 1-week virtual program. 180 HBCU students completed it, where they looked at doing projects, research projects, in data for social impact. It was really fascinating to see all the solutions they came up, from cancer to positive solutions in communities with shootings in their neighborhoods, and just providing a venue for them to explore data science. And at that 1-week virtual program, and they were doing data flows and parameter sensitivity. They weren't even in college yet. And so that one program reached at least 34 different HBCUs. That's about, a third of institutions. So to run programs such as this one that really pipeline students coming into the school ready and astutely aware that they can use data for social impact, all majors have a piece of this and can participate in this activity. That takes funding, that takes personnel, it takes staff. I have an amazing team. But we really rely on industry sponsorships to make all of this work, not only in helping us partner with the work on how should we do this, how should we think about curriculum, how should we stand up these programs with students so they can come in and enter into these amazing career pathways, but it also takes staff. It takes time. It takes electricity. We do actively look for sponsors in this work because we are funded solely either by industry sponsors or the U.S. government, and we're thankful to all who support this work, but it does. To be frank, at the end of the day, it takes money to create these. We'll say from Atlanta, we call it good trouble in data science to really move the needle, to broaden participation so that each and every student at our historically Black colleges and universities have access to enter and do this thing of data science and artificial intelligence, because we need all hands on deck in this work to make it all better for everyone.
This is going to sound a little unconventional. I would say if we can all go to our HR department, look at the list of jobs that are there, and please edit some of these titles. Because it's very hard for our students sometimes to find a space at our organizations because we have very archaic titles, titles that don't include like public interest or ethics or just data science itself. Like they have some coded titles that students don't know where to fit in. So I would say that's one thing. And then with that also, if you're bringing a student who has a different mindset about data, who's been trained in ethics, when they enter a space that maybe has not been that way, that they're also supported. All right, so I think those are two things I would say.
It is UN week, and I feel as our panel's drawing to a close, I am going to ask to put on your sort of globally minded hats as well now. We work very locally in our communities. Where's your ambition, where's your initial efforts, if any, focused on sort of impacting our global community? And I know that's a tough one, I didn't prep you for that, so.
Go ahead. Okay, I'll be quick. I think thinking globally but working globally is what we try to do, right? So if we can solve our own problems with students doing that, that can be scalable to someone else, in a different continent, a different area. So I think for our students is kind of doing that local but thinking and working to reach global.
So at the Atlanta University Center Data Science Initiative and also the NSF National Data Science Alliance, we work nationally and think globally. So we work at a national scale to really broaden participation at scale at a national effort. As someone who did a study abroad in high school in a small town, Juan Viñas in Costa Rica, and then also went and did a semester in undergrad at La Universidad Autónoma de Guadalajara in Mexico, and took province stats, linear algebra there, and just being immersed in other environments where I could do mathematics there, I find it extremely important that our students have those connections along with our faculty and bridging partnerships. We have talked about partnering with other data science institutes at other countries, perhaps co-hosting data challenge, having a knowledge share around curriculum, maybe even some joint research. So this is something we're looking to do and really excited about some possibilities as we go from, I guess we say upscaling from a national level to an international level, global. And then I guess beyond that is it the universe? Is that right, David?
That's where we go.
Okay, that's it. To the universe like Buzz Lightyear?
So maybe because I'm the foreigner in the panel, right? But like, I'm from Brazil. I moved 14 times in my life. I'm exhausted. That's why I probably had 2 burnouts in my life already, right? But anyway, so the point here is that I can't not thinking global. My mind works through a geopolitical and system theory lens. I don't work any other way. And maybe that's why they say my position is unicorn, which is very hard because I can crash and burn very quickly too, right? Fly high or crash. So why I'm saying this, I actually think we should always think global. And then always, 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 because these solutions are being implemented not in the US. The technology developed in the US is being rolled out everywhere. And many times, the technology developed here is actually rolled out in the global south, right? I'm sorry, I know I'm blonde, blue eyes, but I am from Brazil, right? So we have to think about those rollouts. And we have to think that a white guy in California, and I have a beautiful little white boy that my biggest mission as a mom is to make sure he's not another white American asshole, right? That's my big, understand that his actions are global, right? His choices are global. Doesn't matter where he works, right? So that's also the mindset that we want to share with our students. And again, I invite you guys to join us. Pete has an international group with a lot of universities from the Global South. Those partnerships are crucial to think. Thank you.
We are over time, so I will leave it right there. We are thrilled, by the way. Please join me in thanking this panel